Okay, we're live with another episode of the Focal Thought, and I'd like to welcome my guest today, Denzil Fernandes. Denzil, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me here today, Croydon.
No, thank you for coming on the show. And this is awesome because I think you're the first guest that I've had where I sort of contacted you today, and we set up the podcast today itself. So that's really fun.
Thanks. I'd like to make an impact, and I'm happy to contribute to the multitude of podcasts that you have coming up.
No, no, thanks so much for that. So I wanted to start off by saying, I saw your LinkedIn profile. And we connected on LinkedIn, and the first thing that attracted me to hitting the connect button was this home office setup that you have. It's a beautiful setup, so I'm going to put your contact in the show notes after this, but I encourage the audience members to go and check out your setup because it's really gorgeous, and it's really a cross between the cockpit of an airplane and a nightclub. And I say that because you've got these like these monitors sprawled across, very neat and, very sort of purposefully placed. You've got microphones, you've got devices that are acting as interfaces. You've got this incredible lighting. You've got a really warm picture with your family. You've got, the sound absorbers on the wall. And, when you look at this picture, you just feel like working right away. And you don't really care about what you might be working on, but it's very inspiring, and it really, just from looking at it, gets you into the feel for working. So if you can just, what was the sort of the intent behind this setup, and why have you set it up like this?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the multitude of comments, compliments there as well. So it was a journey. It was a journey. It wasn't always a cockpit. It was not always gorgeous, and it wasn't always motivating to work from home. And so I would use those as reasons to get started in trying to improve my productivity. So I'd say, I remember for me, going into the office was probably, the best part of my morning is just meeting people, connecting with people physically, even if in the boardroom or in meetings that were down, the lobby or in the hall, we always found a way to connect. And I found that the moment I went home, I missed that. And I also missed the facilities that they had provided. I had a desk, a dedicated one, and I had two monitors there, and I had a whole bunch of, I would say, technology around me that made it working easier. So, quoting the first thing when I came back home, I realized that, like everyone, maybe this is just going to be a month or two or three. So when I first started out, I literally just had a desk, like most, or I was actually mostly with my laptop, sitting in the kitchen, sitting in the dining room, sitting on the patio, and keep moving around. That didn't really actually improve my mental health. I was not actually more creative than I was before, and I actually didn't become any more productive. If anything, it just made it harder to work.
Correct.
So that actually motivated me to do something, and that's how I started this journey. And so I'd say to anyone who's listening, is that this didn't happen overnight. Just like Rome, it took many months to get this far. If I could start to elaborate a bit on how I got started, I think the first thing I realized is I needed a space at home, a
Yeah.
place where I could just say this would be the place for me to turn it on, and when I leave that room, I turn it off. So I'm not sure, Croydon, if you felt that too, that when you were working from home, you were always on in any room because you kept moving your workspace everywhere. Did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, when I think it was March of last year, and in my sort of work that I do, we're sort of remote already halfway, in the sense that we base off from home, but we can go to an office. We're meeting clients mobile on the road. So I wasn't a stranger to working at home, but
Gotcha.
I did notice myself too that productivity did drop because my spouse, she also was at home, so she kind of took over the home office. my office was basically the dining table. And, I just set up the laptop there, and I tried to do the same thing. But just like you said, I noticed the productivity really dropped like
Yeah,
50% or even more.
definitely. And so, trying to switch on and get that A game and just try to, focus became hard for me. And so the first thing I needed, just like you, was to say, okay, let me find a space that I could, start to make or, start to build on for the future. So the first thing was find a nice space that has some quietness. Now, like yourself with your spouse, I have three children as well at home. And so it's even more challenging with the noise. I'm surprised we can't hear them right now, but there's always some sound of somebody's crying or somebody needs time on a computer or allow YouTube access. So I needed a space for that. And so the first thing I would say, if anyone's listening, try to find a space where you think you're going to get your game on. The second thing I would tell you about that space is most likely, if you're like me and you started out home because you were a remote worker, just like Royden too, you probably had a laptop. And
Yeah.
so the first thing I kind of realized about these laptops was that it gave me the freedom to move. However, that worked really well in a business atmosphere, like in an office building, traveling to clients or meeting customers. It didn't really actually help me at home too much because it made me move too much. So the first thing I said, okay, I'm going to leave this laptop on this desk and I'm never going to move it from there. And then that started to say, and after experiencing just the laptop, I started to realize that when I had meetings with people, that I was limited with one display, especially on a Zoom or Teams or a WebEx meeting. You would find yourself in a little bit of a fix with one screen. You're trying to share PowerPoint, you're trying to look at the presenter's notes, or you found myself limited. Did you find yourself limited with one screen as well with a laptop?
Well, definitely. And, like you're saying, laptop is good when, you're on the go, when you're mobile, when you need to sort of do mobile work. But,
Mhm.
I guess that the mindset that comes from the laptop is not the same like when you have this screen, or maybe, multiple screens in front of you, when you're sitting at, the control panel, and you've got, the
Yeah.
inspiration to work from that sort of mindset, right? Like you've got the power essentially.
That's right. So I'd say, I even felt empowered, and I would even tell anybody else, you don't need all this technology or you don't need to get here in day one. You could just start off with a desk, a dedicated space, and maybe attach one more monitor. Because what that allowed me to do was be in a meeting and at the same time have a document or another application open, and I could reference that application or reference the data and make my points across. And I found that to be really useful, especially if I'm trying to look at people and they're trying to look at me with the videos turned on. Now, after doing that, what I found was I was in the middle of a project deployment. Now, I'm not sure if you've been in this situation, but in a previous organization I worked, when it came to doing project work, we usually came together in a physical room. So that was my challenge. We don't have a physical room, and we're all running a project in the pandemic. And just for folks who are looking at projects, you may be involved like 5%. Like this was 95% of my work. I was involved in the major rollout for Microsoft Teams, and being connected to the organization meant something different to me than what I would think most were. Most were thinking, okay, I'll just jump on a 30-minute, hi, how is everyone, coffee virtual call. I wanted something more, Troy. And that's got me into looking into expanding my home office and trying to basically bring a meeting room experience in my home. So one of the things I first started with, and I still had this laptop, is I looked at a meeting room solution. Now, are you familiar with meeting room solutions or meeting rooms?
I'm not, no.
So let me just share what that is. So
Sure.
typically we are constrained to one device, meaning with the one device we connect to one meeting, right?
So say like the
And
one laptop.
yeah, the one laptop. And
Sure.
that's going to take all the horsepower to connect. And remember, we didn't have the best of internet connections when this started. So we were, shutting off all our applications and just trying to get a voice or just trying to dial in, just trying to get something connected. So this got me thinking, you know what? I don't have all this horsepower here. I could look at making the laptop better or upgrading it, but that was not within reach. So instead, what I looked at was something called a meeting room. A meeting room is just like a meeting room um, you have in your office, but it's equipped with a display, a speakerphone, and a touch panel. So what this allowed me to do, and I'll explain that, is I have offloaded my video, my audio, screen sharing to a whole nother device. So it basically acts like a Teams meeting room. So basically, when people would book me, I would add my meeting room to that meeting. Now, what this does though is when I join my meetings, I'm joining with my meeting room. If
Yeah.
my computer restarts, I'm still connected to the project meeting. So I'll have a dedicated meeting device. And today, there are what you say personal devices that you can get, which basically allow you to sign into Teams, Zoom, or WebEx, and then you could connect from a phone or this personal device, which gives you the audio video conferencing, which is basically a nice way to offload, all that hardware and performance that's demanded from your laptop.
Got it. So the meeting room device is sort of like the conference room that you enter, and then you
Yes.
still got your computer to do your work from, right?
Correct. If that was in a office situation, I'd be driving in, running into the office, and I would be clicking that join meeting on the inside the office, and then everyone would see the conference room. In my case, everyone could see my home office at that point. So
Yeah.
it had cameras on it as well. Um, you know, I would like to add something more to that. So I was not always in a meeting, but I wanted to create a state of feeling connected, as I mentioned earlier. So, what we would do, we would book a meeting in a calendar. It would literally be 0 minutes. And the concept was when you came to work and you didn't have a one on one meeting or a specific meeting with groups, you could always join this project meeting that didn't block your calendar. Someone would be there, or you may be alone. If you stuck around for 5 minutes, maybe somebody would join. And so the concept was when you wake up in the morning and you start your day and you need to focus and you feel like you're alone in this project and there's no meeting, you could always join this meeting room, which took no time in your calendar, but allowed you to join. Does that make sense? So essentially, you should feel connected to this point, and then your project team members would be in there.
So when you join this meeting room, is someone there or someone can be there, or it's just you
Yes,
hanging
it's
out till someone shows up, or
yeah, so it's all three and above. So usually two people chat side and say, I've been, I'm working with this guy and I'm having a problem. And then we would be like, do you want to meet? And we would make a conscious decision because we're doing this for the project. We would go meet in the project room. Sometimes we may be blessed because the project manager's in the room, right?
got it,
And then
got it.
other times there could be other team members who just happen to be having another side conversation. But what this did is it create a lot more togetherness. And so people were seeing what those problems were. Previously in the office, this could be a side conversation happening inside the meeting room, right? Like physically. So you could always be in the know of what is happening in the project. How do you get that when you're virtual? So that was the concept that I started, and we kind of continued that for a good 8 months, till we phased out the project.
This is great because it's sort of the equivalent of if you meet a coworker, by the water cooler at work and you have a conversation. But
Yeah.
then if you actually, you and your coworker go into the conference room at the office because you sit down because it's the environment of the conference room, it's going to engage your mind into thinking those sort of, business thoughts, right? Those empowered thoughts that
Yeah.
you wouldn't think necessarily, at the water cooler. It would be more casual. So this is sort of taking that same concept, and from your work from home, you're separating your work from the laptop and then your discussion in the meeting room.
That's correct. Now, the moment I need to jump on a meeting, I still have my laptop to do that. My meeting room is still connected to the project room. I mute the mic. They can still see me, and they can see me working with another person in the time being. So, if I could hear them, they'll say, "Hey, Denzil," and I'll just raise my hand and say I'm a bit busy, and then they'll give me 2 minutes. But the feeling was, we see Denzil, the work is visible. We see, Jason, my colleagues, Andrew, we see them every day. So we know where it is. And it's not always about talking, Croydon. So we would all connect, turn on our cameras, and all be on mute. And we're focusing on our tasks. And the moment we run into, we express that, just like we were at our desks, you know, huffing and puffing away,
You've got
about
that
our.
sort of office environment captured where, say you've got a staff of say 12 people in an office room, say in cubicles.
Mhm.
You're sort of all working together through the use of the camera, and you can see each other if you'll need be. If like you're saying, if someone coughs, you hear that noise. You're trying to best
Correct.
simulate that office environment, but at home.
That's correct. Now, in my work as an IT professional, I needed access to many systems of from Microsoft 365. So having one display after some time wasn't enough for me personally. And so I looked into expanding my displays, and this got me to the part where I, added a second display. So now I'm at three displays at this point with my laptop included. And really, the dual displays, what they allowed me to do is divide and conquer how I like to work. So, when people say that's a lot of monitors, at the naked eye, sure, it is. But let me explain the workflow so that maybe it might work for you. So, one of my monitors is primarily used for communication. So, that is an example of having real time communication ready to go, like chats, meetings, and so forth. It also has my email to go. So, that's my communication. My other monitor is full on productivity. I've got my Word documents, my PowerPoints, I've got my browsers open as well. Now, uh, I eventually ran out of real estate, and at the same time, I saw that my TV at home was barely used. And so, what you might have seen in the home office is that I brought a TV up here.
Yeah, I saw that.
So most of our TVs accept a PC connection or a native HDMI, and all our laptops, majority of them have HDMI out. Well, if it's C type, if it's new. However, with some conversion, you could definitely connect it to your TV and extend that display. So what I was able to do is find a dock that worked really well with my laptop from Dell, and it allowed me to push, a third display out. Now, when I put that third display out, I was literally looking at a 55-inch TV screen, flat screen, and that was great for all the meetings where I was listening actively more than having to contribute. So I really enjoyed watching our company town halls. Our CEO, Mr. McCain at the time, he was, addressing us through virtual events, live events. So sitting back and watching it on TV gave me a whole different appreciation of my organization. If I was confined to the small display, 15 inches, you always look to minimize that window and do something else. But this felt like we were watching TV, to say literally.
It's the
Now,
equivalent of being in the hall that they've, rented to have the town hall, right? Like the theater experience,
yes,
essentially.
yes, exactly. Now, when I thought about bringing the TV up, it was important to understand where to place the TV, where to place all these things. And I'll mention a few things in just a moment on how I started to think about how to do this. But one thing I'll tell you about this TV that I was able to do. So you'll find this in the link that you will provide. I found this a touch frame is what it's called. You can uh, with double-sided tape, you can add it as an adhesive, to your TV, and then you can mount this frame. When you mount this frame, what you have done is you've converted your TV into a touchscreen TV. So now, what does that mean? Now when I'm in a meeting and I'm sharing a whiteboard, I literally touch my screen and draw on the whiteboard. This
Wow.
helped me better to communicate or illustrate or maybe show concepts on how we would need to connect and so forth. So, if folks have TVs at home, you don't have to spend $8,000 to make it touch. You could just get these touch frames, and I have the link in there to show everyone. You could buy these touch frames. There are various sizes and inches, and once you mount it, you have a USB cable that you plug into your computer, and within a minute, you'll notice that you touch your screen, it's responding like a tablet.
Wow. And the TV doesn't have to be preset with any specifications to adopt the touchscreen. It's all in the frame.
It's all in the frame, and for the techies out there, it's an infrared frame. So the infrareds are firing across X and Y axis, and when you put your finger on the screen, it knows exactly where X and Y is. And the one I have is 10 points. So I enjoy it when I get the kids up. We open up the whiteboard, and then the whole family draws at once. So
Oh,
everyone
nice.
has a part of the screen. You might need a little what do you call those cloths to clean your monitors. You might want to use that on your TV after, especially if you have kids. But for the most part, it is fun to interact with software that way as well. So sometimes if I'm fatiguing on the mouse, I just drag the application over, and I'm able to touch that interface and get a feel of what that software can do.
Got it. I really like this because it seems what you've done is you've actually not let, remote working diminish your productivity, or maybe it slightly did at first, but you sort of got the better of it by installing and implementing the use of all these devices just to basically outsource different tasks. And together, they sort of, it's like an orchestra that sets up the total office environment. So you've got your dedicated screen for, say, creativity, your
Mhm.
dedicated, screen for the essence of the work you do. And then you've got sort of, the big TV for, your experience with town halls and, interactive whiteboard displays. You've got your meeting room device. So all of this together, you've created, the virtual office at home,
That's
which you
correct.
might
That's
never
correct.
want to leave.
Yeah, I'm. There's been a few more additions that I've not shared online since then. But I did mention earlier that there are a few things that I would give folks as tips. So number one, I found a few things that 2021 should hopefully, be at the forefront for everyone. So you notice that all the devices we own, like computers or laptops, that we work from a company perspective, they're not video first technologies, meaning they were designed to be mobile first. So you could be free, have a 12-hour battery life, and low LED emitting power, so you don't take up a lot of battery because your display is being bright. But you turn on video and everything just starts to stop. I'll share with you that I had plugged in my laptop continuously for the first 6 months. So from March till maybe September, I had it plugged in, and I suffered from an enlarged battery. So my battery inside my laptop actually got bigger than it is. So I would let folks know, if you're working from home and you have laptops, make sure you have some software that can stop charging your laptop at 80%. And then, because once it reaches 100 and it keeps charging it, you may run into this issue, and it's dangerous. So warning to anyone who's left your laptops connected since March 2020.
Nice. I
Um,
didn't know that could happen. Oh, that's great.
yeah, so luckily, nothing bad happened, but we found it out and got that fixed. Now, when it comes to sound and video, I gotta let people know we haven't traveled for a year and a half. And if you have, hopefully you're wearing a mask and following all the safety protocols, but we haven't traveled. And so I had this camera just sitting in a bag for, as long as I remember. And I first started to use my PC built-in mic, PC speakers, and the laptop video. Over time, I realized a few things. Now, if you have a relationship with someone forever, you can be on the worst phone call and still love each other. But if you're going to meet somebody for the first time in your organization, or with a vendor, or with a customer, and someone you don't know, even if you're hiring, or recruiting. How do you bring yourself to that condition? Because the measurement is based on what they hear, what they see, what you say. And if you sound terrible, you can't look very crisp on video. It kind of starts to become the 2021 normal of judgment. Like, people are arguably looking at 4K displays, if not 8K, for the nerdy guys out there. People are looking at better quality. Just imagine, we've all upgraded our internet. And so why I'm bringing this back to the devices is that I find that our laptops, or the ones that we were carrying around last year, they were really never meant for video first based meetings. And a lot of people felt no headset, no microphone, just run that, and they would experience the infamous echo, echo, echo. And so I encourage folks that before you look at 3 and 4 displays, I think a good web camera, a good microphone, and a headset is the first place to start with your laptop. And then expand into the displays, because that itself will make you sound well, maybe seen well as well. And at the same time, you will feel better about how you come across online. Otherwise, in the beginning, we saw a lot of people turn off video. And the reasons were internet, bandwidth, quality. Like, sometimes you turn on video, the quality diminishes. Now, there have been improvements with various vendors out there in making these services a lot leaner, but run really well. But still, I think the devices are not made to be video first. I'm not sure how you feel about that.
No, it's true. I mean, it's the equivalent of, wearing an unironed, crinkled suit to a job interview, right? You want to show up your best, like looking sharp and crisp. And
Yeah,
from what you're saying, the technology's become the messenger now, right? It's what's selling you. So if you've got good fundamental technology, like, it doesn't have to be expensive or, far out there. But like you're saying, if you have the basics that'll, communicate the visual and the audio in a professional manner, that's the base to leverage off, right?
that's correct. And so I'm built on that. So I invested in a separate microphone, invested in a headset, and I reused my own camera, which was great. And I think majority of us with DSLR cameras at home do look online. Nikon, Canon, Sony all have adapters and drivers that will make your camera a virtual one that you can select in the software. And that probably is the best crystal image you can get. Outside of that, if you don't have those cameras, you can always look at a Logitech camera. 920 is a good start. 930 is a good start. And if you're looking to go online with your meetings, even take a look at the 4K cameras from Logitech, which are great as well. So I did invest in a few cameras. Actually, you'll see there that I have about 5 of them. And now, do I need all 5? Arguably, no. But my meeting room takes up 2, and I'll explain that in a second. My computer itself takes up as well another 2, and I have one more camera that I just face a wall for the most of the part of it. But the reason I had this is what I realized after 8 months of engagement in video is it gets kind of old. Meaning, just like watching a show on TV, you cannot get old watching the same thing over and over and over again. Unlike real life, where you can control the scene with your own eyes, on a computer, you're just staring at a screen. And so until it gets interesting, it becomes face value. So I don't know if you felt this way, but towards the end of 2020, a lot of people just had video fatigue or meeting fatigue from being on these meetings and having to show up in meetings and so forth.
Yeah, no, definitely. It takes a certain amount of mental preparation to sign on to Zoom and to put yourself into meeting mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost sort of like an effort, right? Like a forcible
Yeah.
effort.
And I found that struggle too. And so that's why towards the end of the last year, I started to add a few more devices, which you'll find in the Modern Workplace home office setup. I added something called a Stream Deck. And I think everyone should just take a look at Stream Decks. This thing's been around for a little while, but do take a look at it. So essentially what I realized is that in the pandemic, we started to watch a lot of TV, if not a lot of shows, and binge watch shows. So Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. I think I might have signed up for 4 or 5 different streaming services. And what I realized was, you know what? Life's like TV. We wake up and we binge life. We wake up, 7 o'clock, and we close our eyes midnight, and that was life. And the question is, what was the best show? Was it the meeting with Croydon? Was it the meeting with the boss, or was it watching a show on TV? And so what I realized is we need to make our meetings way more engaging than what it was. Meaning, I get it. We've got the camera that's positioned. We've got a good microphone. That's great. That works. But 2021, I started to feel we all need to learn a little bit TikTok, if you know what I'm going with this. We all need to learn a little bit of the broadcasting skills that the teenagers are doing with YouTube streaming, gaming, especially. They are monetizing this while we seem very inept at just having a video call. So I started to learn how they do that. So I started to learn a little bit about broadcasting software. And so lately, I've been playing around a lot with open software called Open Broadcast Software. It's called OBS for short. It can be found at obsproject.com. And what that allowed me to do is it allowed me to make my videos a little bit more better, my camera positioned a little bit differently, have different background effects and other things. I'm sure the software is that, but this gave me the flexibility when I meet with people to give them a much better engaging experience. And so what the Stream Deck does, it allows you, Croydon, to quickly change scenes, change cameras, mute, unmute mics. It can even open up a file for you, open up OneDrive. I have it right now with a few options. I actually have a button that would change the lights in the home, so I don't, have to click them individually. So all from a Stream Deck. So check that out if anyone's interested. These Stream Decks, they come with 6 keys, 15 keys, and I believe 32 keys as well. So I've seen a lot of usage of it, and now it's my go-to thing. I get up in the morning. I don't actually, I do the unlock the workstation, but I hit like 6 buttons and I have everything open, ready to go. I even have a button that I click join that joins me to a recurring meeting.
All from Stream Deck.
All from Stream Deck. Exactly. Someone asked me, what is Stream Deck? What does it do? And I say, it's simply said, it's a macro-like tool. It basically can do whatever it can control, and it can control quite a few amount of things. Now, from a Windows operating system, it controls all of Windows, from system sounds to opening up files, drives, applications. But there are plugins for Stream Deck. So if you have other applications at home, like smart devices like Philips Hue, you can connect it to Philips Hue. You can connect it to IFTTT, which is which is a software online that allows you to change and automate things. You can connect it to OBS, the software we were talking about. You can connect it to Spotify. We can keep going on. There's so many things you could do with that, but I encourage folks to check that out. That's going to get you started with a little bit of automation on just being ready for anything. Apart from
it's sort of like the equivalent of, when you want to watch TV, you have your remote, right? So you set up your TV, you put on your audio device for the TV.
I'm going to steal that. That's a great example.
The master controller.
Exactly. Just like your controller, your remote control. I remember there were 4 buttons that you could program, even like to do specific things, like turn on a VCR or something. Exactly that. So Stream Deck is really handful for that. Now, the last few things that I did kind of change in the last month. So I noticed being on video and having video meetings, it's important to make sure that your camera is eye level height or higher. Now, and this could be for multiple reasons. In some cultures, you don't want to be looking down on people. And on a video, it comes across very weird, meaning when you don't mean well, but just how the camera is framing you, it looks like we're looking up people's noses, right? Especially when they try to get too close to explain. And that's because some laptops I have a Dell laptop where the camera is right at the hinge. Let me explain it. It looks like crab fingers typing when that looks bigger than your face because the camera is positioned there. So terrible, right?
Yeah.
So you definitely want to get, the camera above you at your eye level height or higher. And this way, when you engage with people, you should come across much more meaningful, like you're talking to them. Today, what I've done is I've converted or what I've done is I've taken a device, my camera, I've hooked it up to a teleprompter. It's a little bit tough to explain because I'm new to it as well, but I'm basically using a teleprompter. So in my teleprompter, I see the Teams or the Zoom meeting. So it's in my screen. So when I talk to someone, it looks like I'm looking right at them. I can't see my camera anymore because, like a teleprompter, it's behind the half glass, right? Half mirror
Yeah.
glass. Yeah. So I think that has made my meetings a little bit more better this year, more effective, more engaging, because I tend to look straight now at the camera. Before, I felt that I had to consciously look at the camera, and that was a tough thing to do or to get used to. And I try to put it very close to what the participants are, but it always looked like I was looking off screen. So that's one change that I've made lately is try to basically get a bit more engaging with the meetings with the Stream Deck to switch scenes and use a teleprompter, which helps me actually look straight at the camera and straight into the audience or straight into the participants. And it looks like I'm actually listening to you, and it looks like we're there together, right?
Wow. And you can really have a lot of fun with this. I mean, you can take it to, such an extreme, but then I guess there's also sort of a fine balance between, getting people engaged and not getting them distracted by, all the effects and all of that.
I agree. Now, there are two kinds of engagement, right? So it all depends on the type of event. So I think, if it's starting to look like Netflix for a little bit, maybe it's not one of those meetings where we're expecting, a lot more focus. So it does help when you're trying to do a large meeting and you are trying to, it's like a town hall or an event, Healthy Minds, where you're discussing about mental health. I think in that case, yes, a lot of these scenes help because you want people to watch. You don't want them to leave. How many calls have we dialed into and just never contributed? We're a fly on the wall, right? And you don't want to be that person. Remember at the town hall when we used to go in, we used to clap, and the speaker could hear us. What's happening today with these town halls? This is how do you get engaged, right? So I think they're looking for participants to engage, and so one way is to make the visuals a little bit more appealing, to have a better scenes, see more than one person at once, and have that panel-like interview. So I think that's where that Stream Deck comes in handy. Comes handy also in product demonstrations, trying to get your point across. Even if you had 5 minutes to, give up a presentation, that would be a great way to kind of have much more captivation by using those scenes.
Got it. But of course, if it's a serious meeting with, management, executive team, you might want to tone it down a little bit. And you can still, come across as professional, but you'd want
I
to.
think so too. At minimum, a few overlays to, reflect your name, your city, or where you're coming from would be great. And it all depends. Sometimes people would meet with people from all around the world, or sometimes we're meeting with people that we know that are living in our neighborhood, and we might not need that sort of thing. So it all depends on the customer, the client, your colleague, and that you would control that. Think about this as no different than how would you dress for the presentation that you had to give in person? Would you wear that t-shirt that day, or would you wear your suit? So that I think, bringing on your camera or bringing on your scenes is a new way of bringing yourself to work.
Got it. Listen,
Right?
Denzil, this is awesome. Thanks so much for coming on this show. It was really
Thank you for
eye-opening
having
to
me.
see that, you don't have to limit yourself just to, the dining table. And even if it is just the dining table, if that's what you have to work with, there's a certain, few tricks that you can use, some basic fundamentals, just, empower yourself so you get into the mindset for productivity and creativity, and also come across professional to your work colleagues that, you're interacting with during the course of the workday. I really thank you for coming on to this podcast. One final thing I'll let the audience know is that I believe Denzil has the lighting set up so that if he's in a meeting, the lighting changes not only in his workspace, but in the home setting as well, so that his kids know not to disturb dad during the meeting.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
Yes,
Listen,
do
thanks.
check it out.
Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, do go ahead, check that out. I've kind of posted on how you can actually configure that for yourself as well. It does help to change some lights to let others know that it's one of those serious meetings.
No, I'm going to put that. I'll put your contact information in the show notes, and I encourage people just to go and check it out. And it's a thrill. It's awesome to see. Thanks again for coming on to the podcast, and I wish you well and the best of success in your career.
Thank you, Croydon.